For a long time, the galaxy believed it already knew what the word danger meant. Danger had a name. They were called the Deathworld rulers. They came from planets where gravity crushed bones, where the air burned lungs, and where predators hunted without mercy. Their worlds were not gentle. Survival itself was a test. Only the strongest lived. Only the ruthless thrived. And those who survived became something else entirely. The galaxy feared them. Other species avoided their territory. Trade routes bent around their systems. Councils listened carefully when they spoke. They ruled the deadliest worlds. And they believed no one else ever could. In the great Galactic Archives, Deathworlds were ranked by danger. Class 1 was harsh. Class 5 was lethal. Class 10 was considered uninhabitable. The Deathworld rulers came from Class 13. Worlds. Nothing higher existed. Or so they thought. In the Central Council chamber, massive and cold representatives from 100 species gathered. The Deathworld rulers sat apart from the rest, tall and imposing. Their bodies built for violence and endurance. A junior analyst approached the council floor. A new data from deep space. The analyst said. The Deathworld rulers barely looked up. Another failed colony? One of them asked with boredom. Another species that didn't last? Another added. The analyst swallowed. No, he said. A new species? That earned a glance. The hologram activated, revealing a blue planet. Oceans, storms, shifting. Continents? One of the Deathworld rulers laughed. That world is unstable, he said. Why is it even in the archives? The analyst hesitated. Because this species survived it, he said. Silence crept into the chamber. They call themselves, the analyst continued, humans. The Deathworld rulers studied the data. The images showed chaos, wars, natural disasters, cities destroyed and rebuilt again and again. The Deathworld rulers relaxed. They fight each other, one said. They destroy their own world, another added. They are weak. The analyst shook his head. They are still alive, he said. All of them. The Deathworld rulers leaned back, unimpressed. Life survives everywhere, one said. That means nothing. But the data kept scrolling. Human ships entering unstable regions. Human crews surviving radiation spikes. Human explorers landing on planets others marked as forbidden. Small ships, no fear. One Deathworld ruler narrowed his eyes. Why are they going there? He asked. To explore, the analyst replied. To test themselves? Another asked with a grin. No, the analyst said quietly. To adapt. That word felt wrong in the chamber. Deathworld rulers did not adapt. They endured, they dominated, they crushed. Adaptation was for the weak, the council continued. Watching humans lost ships, humans lost lives, but they returned. Every time, different tactics. Better protection. New ideas. They did not stop. One Deathworld ruler finally stood. This species believes courage is enough, he said. They will learn. Another nodded. They have never faced true Deathworlders. The council decided to watch. Not to interfere, not to warn, just to observe, far away. Human ships crossed a boundary no species had crossed before. They entered regions marked not, do not enter. Sensors flickered. Radiation surged. Gravity shifted violently. Human ships slowed but did not turn back. The Deathworld rulers frowned.
That
Region kills most species in minutes, one said. Then this will end quickly. Another replied. But minutes passed, then hours, then days. The humans were still there, alive, working, learning. The laughter faded. The council chamber grew quiet. One Deathworld ruler spoke slowly. They are not ruling Deathworlds, he said. No, another replied, eyes fixed on the screen. They are becoming part of them. For the first time in centuries, the Deathworld rulers felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, not anger, uncertainty. The galaxy had changed, and the Deathworld rulers were no longer sure they were alone at the top. The Deathworld rulers decided it was time. Watching from a distance was no longer enough. They needed proof. They needed to see humans fail. A controlled meeting was arranged. Neutral space. A stable station. Every variable measured the depth. Rulers wanted no accidents. If humans were weak, this would expose them. If humans were dangerous, this would contain them. Human ships arrived first. Small, lightly armored, built for function, not intimidation. The Deathworld rulers noticed this immediately. So fragile, one ruler said. They travel in shells like insects. Another nodded. Double quotes. No natural armor, he said. No claws, no fangs. The station's airlock opened. Humans stepped inside. They were smaller than expected, softer, covered in fabric and light. Plating instead of thick natural armor. Their eyes moved constantly. Not fearful. Alert. The Deathworld rulers towered over them. The difference? Was clear. This is what they call explorers. One ruler said. The human lead stepped forward, calm, confident. We come in peace. The human said. That alone caused quiet laughter. Peace was not how Deathworlds worked. The Deathist world. Rulers studied the humans closely. Heart rates elevated, but controlled. Muscle tension present, but flexible. Eyes steady. They fear us, one ruler said. They respect you, the analyst corrected. The ruler scoffed. Same thing. The conversation continued. Humans asked questions. Not about strength. Not about dominance. They asked about environments. About survival. About hazards? That confused the Deathworld rulers? Why do they care? One asked. They should be afraid. Another said. Instead, the humans listened carefully. They recorded everything. Radiation tolerances, gravity limits, atmospheric dangers. The Deathworld rulers decided to push. They increased the station's gravity slightly. Just enough. The humans staggered but did not fall. They adjusted their stance. Breathing changed. Muscles compensated. The Deathworld rulers watched closely. Interesting, one said. They increased gravity again. A few humans knelt. One human laughed quietly. The Deathworld rulers froze. He's breaking, one said. No, the analyst replied. He's adapting. The gravity returned to normal. Humans stood up slowly, stretching, learning. The Deathworld rulers felt irritation. That was not how weakness behaved. The meeting continued. Humans did not challenge. They did not threaten. They did not submit. They observed. That bothered the Deathworld rulers more than fear would have. You do not belong on Deathworlds, one ruler finally said. The human leader looked up. We grew up on one, he replied. Simply, the Deathworld rulers dismissed it. Your planet does not qualify. One said. The humans smiled slightly. You haven't lived there, he said. That ended the meeting. Back aboard their ship, the Deathworld rulers reviewed the data. Humans were fragile, but strange. They lacked natural weapons but built tools. They lacked thick hides but wore armor. They lacked instincts but trained. They compensate, one ruler said. For what? Another asked. For everything, their analyst replied. The Deathworld rulers did not like that answer. Compensation implied awareness, and awareness led to growth. They decided on a test, not a meeting. A challenge. If humans wanted to exist among Deathworld rulers, they would face a Deathworld, not their own, a real one. The challenge was sent. Human response came quickly. We accept. No hesitation. No negotiation? The Deathworld rulers smiled. This will end the illusion. One said, humans prepared. Not with bravado. With planning, tools, teams. Fallback options. That was the moment the Deathworld rulers missed the truth. Humans were not fearless. They were careful. And careful species survived. Longer than proud ones. As the humans approached the test world, the Deathworld rulers watched, confident, certain, unaware they were about to meet something worse than competition. They were about to meet a species that learned fast. The test world waited in silence. From orbit, it looked alive with danger. Thick clouds moved in violent patterns. Massive storms wrapped around the planet like scars. Scanners showed unstable gravity fields, toxic air, and predators large enough to crush vehicles. This was not a place for experiments. This was a place where species proved their right to exist. The Deathworld rulers watched from their command vessel as the human ship descended. They were last minutes. One ruler said, calmly, this world breaks the weak. The human ship entered the atmosphere. Winds slammed into it. Lightning crawled across its hull. Gravity pulled hard, trying to tear it from the sky. The ship shook but held. That vessel is poorly armored, one ruler said. It's flexible, the analyst replied. The rulers ignored him. The ship landed. Humans stepped out. Immediately, the world attacked. The ground shifted under their feet. The air burned their lungs even through filters. Distant roars echoed across the plains. The Deathworld rulers leaned forward. This is where panic begins, one said. But the humans did not panic. They spread out carefully. They tested the ground. They checked each other's equipment. One human slipped and fell hard. Another helped him up instantly. No shouting. No fear. Only focus. Predators appeared within minutes. Large, fast, and armored. The Deathworld rulers smiled. These creatures hunt in packs, one ruler said. They will surround them. The humans noticed immediately. They did not run. They formed a tight formation, backs to each other. One human activated a device that sent out a sharp vibration through the ground. The predators hesitated, confused. That was unexpected. They studied the environment already. The analyst said quietly. The rulers frowned. The predators attacked. Anyway, humans responded with tools, not brute force, light, sound, terrain. They forced the predators back without killing them. The Deathworld rulers felt irritation. They are surviving, one ruler said. But survival is not dominance. The test continued. Hours passed. Storms hit without warning. Acid rain fell from the sky. Gravity spiked suddenly. forcing humans to their knees. This killed most species quickly. Humans slowed. They adjusted breathing. They redistributed weight. They moved only when needed. They are conserving energy, the analyst said. That won't save them forever, a ruler replied. The night came. Temperatures dropped sharply. The ground froze in minutes. Humans built shelter using rocks, broken equipment, and heat sources. They huddled together, shared warmth. The Deathworld rulers watched in silence. No species survives a full cycle here. One ruler said, "Morning." Cam humans were still alive. Injured, tired, but alive. Something shifted in the chamber. The Deathworld rulers stopped talking. The humans moved again. They explored farther. They marked safe paths. They learned where predators nested and where storms formed. They are mapping the world. The analyst said, "That is not possible this fast." A ruler replied, "Yet the data showed otherwise." A human was injured badly when the ground collapsed. Beneath him, the Deathworld rulers waited for abandonment. Instead, the humans stopped everything. They pulled him out. They carried him. They slowed their pace. "Why protect weaknesses?" one ruler asked. The analyst answered, "Because they expect to be weak someday too." That answer was unsettling. The Deathworld rulers had evolved past such thinking. Weakness was eliminated. Humans preserved it. The test escalated. Predators returned larger this time. Smarter storms overlapped with gravity spikes. The environment tried harder. The humans adapted faster. They should be breaking. One ruler whispered, "They are learning," the analyst replied. The Deathworld rulers felt something cold settle in their chests. This was not endurance. This was compatibility. The test reached its final phase. A region marked as UNSURVIVA. No species had crossed it. The humans stood. At the edge, they did not rush. They discussed, quietly. They adjusted plans. They accepted losses before moving. Then they entered. Minutes passed. Then more. The Deathworld rulers leaned forward. Silent. "This is impossible," one said. "No," the analyst replied softly. "This is human." When the humans emerged on the other side, the chamber was silent. The test was not over, but something else was. The Deathworld rulers no longer saw humans as visitors. They saw them as equals. Or, worse, competitors. The Deathworld rulers had expected many things. Pain, failure, begging. They had not expected silence. Inside the command vessel, no one spoke as the humans continued moving across the Deathworld. The screens showed humans walking where no species had ever walked before, not rushing, not celebrating. Just moving forward. This world was meant to break them, one ruler said quietly. "It is trying," the analyst replied. "And failing." The Deathworld rulers ordered the test to escalate. Not slightly. Completely. Gravity surged without warning. Bones cracked in other species at this level. The ground became heavy. Like moving through deep water, the humans staggered. Several fell. The Deathworld rulers leaned forward. "This is it," one ruler said. But the humans did not collapse. They crawled. They pulled each other forward. They laughed. Through pain, short and breathless. One human tapped another's shoulder and made a joke. The translations struggled to explain why. "Why are they laughing?" a ruler asked. The analyst hesitated. "Because fear loses power when shared." He said, "The environment struck again. Predators larger than before emerged from the storms. Their bodies were thick, their movements fast, their jaws strong enough to crush metal. This time, the predators did not hesitate. They attacked. The humans formed a defensive ring. Not perfect, not elegant. Effective. One human was thrown aside, badly injured. Blood stained the ground. The Deathworld rulers waited for retreat. Instead, the humans closed ranks tighter. They placed the injured in the center. They fought around them. Why protect the wounded? A ruler demanded. Because, the analyst replied, they believe survival without loyalty is not survival. That idea unsettled the Deathworld rulers deeply. On their worlds, the weak were left behind. That was how species survived. Humans disagreed. The predators fell back, confused, and injured. The Deathworld rulers felt something. Cold, not anger, fear. The test escalated again. Storms stacked on storms. Acid rain burned through rock. Visibility dropped to nothing. The humans stopped moving. They waited. Why stop? One ruler asked. They are listening, the analyst said. Listening, to wind, to ground, to danger. When the storm passed, the humans moved again using paths the predators avoided. They learned the world, the analyst whispered. In days. The Deathworld rulers stared at the screens. No species learned. Deathworlds, they endured them. Humans studied them. That difference mattered. The test reached the breaking point. A region marked absolute fatality. Even the Deathworld rulers avoided it. Gravity fluctuations. Unstable ground. Constant predator presence. This is enough, one ruler said. No species survives this. The humans stood at the edge. Their leader looked back at his team. They were exhausted. Injured, scarred. He nodded. They went in. Minutes passed, then more. The Deathworld rulers stopped breathing. This cannot be real, one whispered. The humans moved slowly, deliberately. They avoided weak ground. They redirected predators instead of fighting them. One human slipped and nearly fell into a ravine. The team reacted instantly. They anchored. They pulled. They saved him. That moment broke something inside the Deathworld rulers. They should be dead, one said. They should have chosen efficiency, another added. They chose each other. The analyst replied. The humans emerged from the fatal zone alive. The test alarm screamed. Unexpected. Suavivala, the Deathworld rulers stared. The shock was complete. These humans were not lucky. They were not reckless. They were built for this. The led Deathworld ruler finally spoke. They do not rule Deathworlds, he said slowly. No, the analyst replied. They coexist with them. That was worse. The test was no longer about dominance. It was about identity. If humans could do this, then what did that make the Deathworld rulers? For the first time in their long history, they felt small. And the worst part? The humans were still calm, still learning, still not done. The command chamber felt smaller now. Not because it had changed, but because the Deathworld rulers had. They no longer sat back in their seats. They leaned forward, eyes fixed on the feeds from the test world. No one laughed. No one spoke without thinking. The humans were still alive. That alone had already shattered expectations. But survival was no longer the issue. Understanding was. The lead Deathworld ruler broke the silence. Pull their origin records, he ordered. I want everything. The analyst hesitated. Full history? He asked. Yes, the ruler replied. All of it. The data began to scroll. Planet designation: Earth. Gravity: high. Tectonic activity: constant. Atmosphere: unstable. Weather patterns: extreme and unpredictable. The Deathworld rulers watched carefully. Natural disasters filled the screen. Earthquakes tearing cities apart. Hurricanes swallowing coastlines. Volcanoes erupting without warning. This world destroys itself, one ruler said. And they still live there, the analyst replied. The data continued. Plagues, famine, wars, conflicts that lasted generations. Weapons that could erase entire regions. The Deathworld rulers shifted uneasily. Why would a species do this to itself? One asked. The analyst answered slowly. They don't choose it, he said. They survive it. The rulers watched human populations rebuild again and again. Cities rose from ruins. Technology advanced despite loss. Children were born where destruction once ruled. They do not escape their world, the lead ruler said. They endure it daily. The feed returned to the test world. Humans moved across the terrain now with confidence. Not arrogance. Familiarity. They are not adapting anymore, one ruler said quietly. No, the analyst replied. They are recognizing patterns. That realization struck hard.
Okay.
Deathworld rulers survived their planets because they were born strong. Humans survived theirs because they learned. That difference mattered. The analyst brought up a comparison chart. Earth ranked lower than the test world in some areas, but not in unpredictability. Earth changed constantly. Storms without warning. Enemies without rules. Disasters without patterns. Earth did not allow rest. One ruler clenched his fists. We trained for harsh worlds, he said. They trained for chaos. The chamber fell silent. On the test world, a sudden storm formed again. Acid rain fell hard. Visibility vanished. The Deathworld rulers expected trouble. The humans paused, adjusted their gear, and continued. They had seen worse. The analyst spoke again. Humans don't separate danger from life, he said. To them, danger is normal. The lead ruler slowly stood. Our mistake, he said, was believing Deathworlds create strength. The analyst looked at him. They don't, the ruler continued. They create survivors. He looked back at the humans on the screen. But Earth, he said, creates problem solvers. That was the realization. Humans were not shaped by one environment. They were shaped by constant failure and recovery. They learned that plans break. That safety disappears. That comfort is temporary. And so they prepared for loss, as a rule, not an exception. One ruler spoke what all of them were thinking. They don't fear Deathworlds, he said. They expect them. The test world was no longer a challenge. It was a mirror. The humans completed the final objective. They stood together, exhausted, injured, but stable. No celebration, just quiet acknowledgement. The test alarms ended. Trial complete. The Deathworld rulers did not cheer. They did not declare victory or defeat. They felt something heavier. Respect and fear. The lead ruler turned to the council channel. We misjudged them, he said. They are not visitors in danger. He paused. They are citizens of it. The analyst added one final note to the report. Humans are not Deathworld rulers. They are Deathworld natives. The Deathworld rulers looked at the humans one last time. The galaxy had changed. And this time, it wasn't the humans who needed to adjust. The galaxy did not change all at once. It changed quietly, slowly, almost politely. After the test ended, no celebration followed. No announcements were made. No messages were sent to the wider galaxy. The Deathworld rulers remained silent. That silence meant more than any declaration. Inside their command chamber, the rulers sat in a circle. Not towering. Not relaxed. Thinking. The lead ruler finally spoke. "We invited them to prove weakness," he said. "They showed us something else." No one disagreed. The analyst presented the final report. No emotion. Just facts. Humans survived all phases of the test. They adapted faster than expected. They protected their injured. They did not retreat when retreat made sense. They treated danger as normal. The analyst paused before reading the final line. "They did not behave like visitors," he said. "They behaved like residents." That word settled heavily. Residents. The Deathworld rulers had ruled harsh worlds because they were born strong. Their bodies were built for punishment. Humans were different. They were not built for Deathworlds. They were trained by them. The lead ruler stood and faced the council channel. "We must update the classification," he said. A council member objected. "They are not conquerors." "Correct," the ruler replied. "They are worse." The council stirred. "They survive without ruling," the ruler continued. "They adapt without dominating." He looked at the human data one last time. "They do not seek the top," he said. "They endure whatever exists." The new classification appeared on the screen. Species, human status. Deathworld natives risk level, context dependent, a note was added beneath it. Do not challenge, do not provoke, do not underestimate. The council accepted it unanimously. That alone shocked the galaxy. Trade routes adjusted. Exploration protocols changed. Worlds once labeled uninhabitable were re-evaluated only after checking if humans had already been there. Often, they had. Human ships were given quiet passage through dangerous regions. Not because of fear, because of respect. On the test world, the humans prepared to leave. They moved slowly now. Carefully. One human looked back at the terrain. "Rough place," he said. Another nodded. "Seen worse." The Deathworld rulers watched their departure. "They don't know what they did," one ruler said. "No," the analyst replied. "They just lived." That was the final truth. Humans did not redefine the galaxy with speeches or power. They did it by existing. By surviving where others could not. By treating chaos as routine. The balance shifted. Not toward domination. Toward adaptability. Years later, young Deathworld rulers would study the test footage. They would ask the same question, again and again. How did they survive? Their teachers would answer with a simple truth. They didn't try to conquer Deathworlds, they would say. They grew up inside one. The galaxy learned to stop asking whether humans were dangerous. It learned to ask something else. What happens when they decide to stay? Because when humans entered the galaxy, the Deathworld rulers lost something they never expected to lose. Their uniqueness. They still ruled harsh worlds, but they no longer ruled the idea of survival. That now belonged to humans. And the galaxy quietly adjusted to a new reality. Not ruled by strength, but by those who endure anything.